What is going on, guys? Achilles here, and I know. Finally, I am doing the M48 Patton review. I know it's been probably about 4 or 5 months of you guys requesting me to do this, and yeah, I finally have this tank, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think about it, and as well as just give you like basic facts and stuff about that. Just give you guys like a general synopsis of what I think about this tank. Is it good? Is it really worth the grind? I've always been asked that question, and I never am able to answer it because I just finally got this thing like probably a week ago. So yeah, so the M48 Patton, let's jump right into it. So you got 2,000 hit points right off the bat, as you can see there on the right. So 2,000 hit points, that's actually really healthy for the tier 10 medium category. You got tanks like the Batchat, and like the Object 430 and the 140 with like 1,800 and 1,900, but 2,000, that's just a really satisfying number for some reason. It's only 50 less than the E50M, which is nice. So you do have a really large hit pool for a medium tank. It really may not seem like it's that big of a difference, but having that 200 extra health more than like a Batchat, or like that 100 more than a like an Object 430 or Object 140 for that matter, it really does make the difference. If you are getting shot by someone, you have more of a buffer zone, I guess you could say. But yeah, so 2,000 hit points, and then the M48 Patton does get 9 degrees of gun depression, which is really good. It is on par with the Leopard 1. Just not as good as the STB, as the STB has 10 degrees, but 9 degrees is still really good. And that's really what you're really going to want to utilize when you are using the M48 Patton. As you're going to see when we dive into the replays, there's going to be quite a few things that I want to talk about in terms of like where the M48 Patton shines the most. But enough about the basic stats. Let's hop right into the armor profile here. So on the front of the M48 Patton, we have 110 millimeters of hull armor, 76 on the side, 35 on the rear, and then on the turret we have 178 on the front, 76 on the side, and 51 on the rear. So yeah, the M48 Patton, it's not really known for its armor. When I've always been shooting at this thing, I always find that I somehow hit the super absorbent gun mantlet on this tank, which I will talk about in a second. But yeah, so the upper plate is really not that good. You're looking at like 170 effective, like 180. So you get some weird like bounce zones towards the beak of the tank. But for the most part, it's really easy to pen. And pretty much everything that sees this tank is going to be able to pen it extremely easily. Now, there are some really weird zones like down here. As you can see, it's kind of sloped down a little bit. If you are shooting this thing on the side, you will get some weird like bounce angles, towards down the drive wheel right there. You can see where the drive axle is attached. You do get some really weird bounces with this tank. And that's what I feel is probably the biggest issue with this tank, is that it doesn't have reliable armor, either on the turret or the hull. The front of the turret, you're looking at about 203 effective next to the gun mantlet, and then like it gets better on the outward parts, like as you go around, like here. If you're looking straight at the M48 Patton, the areas closest to the gun mantlet are going to be the easiest to penetrate. But I will warn you, you do not want to shoot the gun mantlet unless you are shooting like right next to the gun or right above or right below it. There's actually a hole in the armor behind the gun mantlet behind there, so you will be able to penetrate that. It's only like 120 millimeters thick effective, so if you do shoot the M48 Patton in the gun mantlet, shoot it as close to the gun as possible without actually hitting the gun. But if you do actually hit on the sides of really far to the left, right, bottom, or top, it's like 400 effective, 350. It's some crazy number, and I found that every time I shoot at the M48 Patton, it just somehow gets absorbed by the gun mantlet, no matter where I aim. So yeah, that's a big issue. And you may be noticing the gigantic machine gun on top of the tank here. It's actually only 76 millimeters thick, so honestly, if you hit it, it's gonna go in and it's gonna do damage. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a couple things that you can do with that cupola to use it to your advantage and try to make the best out of the situation with it, as it's not always going to be an issue, but it is a pretty big issue in terms of how flexible this tank's going to be, and how well you're going to be able to deal with the people that are actually shooting at you. So enough about the armor. I'll talk more about it in the replays when we do actually see some live combat here. But yeah, let's get right into the modules here. So when you do get the Patton, you do get the stock 90 millimeter, which is really shitty. the next package is the top 105 that you got on the M46 Patton. If you did get that, you should already have this package researched, and you shouldn't have to, grind XP to get this gun unless you completely skipped it altogether on the M46 Patton. And then I think it's like 45,000 XP to get the top gun on this. And this gun, it's pretty good. I'll talk about it in a second, but let's go into the engine here. So you have an 810 horsepower engine, which is not that bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. One of my bigger complaints about the M48 Patton is that it's not slow. It just seems to be really, really sluggish, and that really does hinder your ability to flex around the map and be as useful as you could be. It's not slow. Like, you'll see in the replays, like, I'm not going slow. You top out at 45 kilometers an hour, which is like, I want to say, like, highly mobile heavy tank speed. So like the 113 or like the WZ 111 or something like that. It's kind of like the middle ground. It kind of bridges the gap between heavy tanks and medium tanks. So, you're not really missing out on speed, but you're not really going that fast. You're not really going that slow. So you're just kind of somewhere in the middle. And then you do actually get a 50-degree track traverse speed, which is actually really, really good. If you do find yourself getting circled, which I don't really see how that's going to happen, you're in a medium tank, you will be able to turn around really, really quickly and turn around and face those guys. And then you see the turret armor there. We just talked about that. 40-degree traverse speed. And then another thing that the 48 Patton has up its sleeve is its view range at 420 meters, blaze it. But yeah, I mean, that's nice, but the 48 Patton's camera rating is actually not that good. As you can see on the right, it says below average. I mean, I don't really know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but it's not as descriptive as I would like it to be. As you can see, it is a very, very tall tank. If I had any other like medium tank to compare it to, it actually is extremely tall. I'm pretty sure it's on par with the E50 in terms of awful camera ratings. So even though you have an extremely good view range, that 20 millimeters or that 20 meters really isn't that big of a deal. So you will be able to spot people, but odds are if it's another medium tank like a Batchat, he's probably going to be able to see you too, because he will have gotten past that 20 meters extra that you have to spot you, because you do have such a crappy camera rating, which kind of sucks and will work against you, but it is nice. And then you got your standard 745 meter radio range there. So yeah, the gun. This is not something that I want to say is amazing, but it's not awful. This gun, it has its ups and it definitely has its downs. In terms of ups, it has a really nice penetration factor there, 268. That is very good. It's 2 less than the E50M, so that's really good with the APCR rounds. And then you do have the 390 Alpha, as it is a 105. The 6.82 rounds a minute, it's not bad, but it's not amazing. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle. It's not. I mean, you honestly are dead center in the middle of the pack DPM wise. I can't really tell you like exact numbers because the website that I usually use to tell you guys, like number factors and stuff like that is it's updated to the PC version of the 48 Patton, which just got a DPM buff, so it is actually better than the current version that we have. Now, the 6.82 rounds a minute, it's pretty good. I think with my reload, I'm pumping out a shot every like 8.1 seconds or something like that, so it's not awful, but it's not amazing. Definitely not like STB status. But you do have a 2-second aiming time, which is really good, and then 0.36 accuracy, which is it's meh. If you've ever played the STB or any like pseudo accurate, inaccurate gun, the .36 really does let you down at a distance. So you're going to see that a lot in the 2 replays that I have for you. It really just is really underwhelming, the accuracy of this gun. But I would say the best factor, or the best, I guess you could say, attribute of this gun, well, I wouldn't really say it's the gun. Just like the tank's dispersion factor. The M48's dispersion on the move, while turning the turret and while turning the chassis and just while like moving in general, is actually really, really good. This tank is really, really good for firing on the move. So if you are like running away from someone and you just want to right bumper, right trigger them, this is a very, very good tank to do so. Now, granted, it's not like Object 140 status, which is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. But the M48 does have a really, really good dispersion factor. So yeah, equipment fit, pretty standard. I mean, I probably should run optics on this, but I mean, my logic is that I have Brothers in Arms trained, and then I have vents to help the view range plus the cola. So, you know, if I was trying to be like a supportive player and be more team oriented, I would definitely run gun rammer, vert stab, and optics. But since I'm trying to get that max dispersion or max DPM factor and get my accuracy on my gun down a little bit, because the Brothers in Arms, vents, and cola brings the accuracy down to about like 0.33, 0.32, even though it doesn't seem like it at times. It does actually help. So yeah, this is pretty standard for any sort of tier 10 medium tank. I don't really feel like I have to explain this. For those of you guys who have been watching these videos for long enough, you know exactly why I put all these on here. Honestly, you really probably don't even need the vertical stabilizer in the M48 Patton, though. If you did want to kind of run, you want to switch it up and run the gun rammer, optics, and then vents, I feel like that's a pretty viable option. Honestly, I don't really see anything else that would be very viable. Camo net won't help. Binocs, you're always going to be moving. So yeah, the 4 piece of equipment that you can, you know, toss around, definitely vents, vert stab, gun rammer, and optics. Any one of those, or any 3 of those 4 would work really well on this tank. But yeah, crew skill wise, pretty much the top 3, you know, I've said this in every other video. The top 3 that you want to have for sure, well, top 5 in this situation. The top 5 you want to have for sure is definitely Sixth Sense #1 always, and then you're going to want to go with repairs second, and then Brothers in Arms third, and snapshot, and then probably, I want to say, it's really hard to tell, pain tolerance. Go with pain tolerance. I feel like that's probably one of the most annoying things in the game, is having one of your crew members die, especially if you don't have jack of all trades trained, which I almost do. But say I only had like 4 perks on my, or 4 perks on this crew guy. It would really suck if one of my crew members died, like my gunner. You know, due to the random nature of this gun, having a dead gunner really would suck. And since he does sit like right to the left of the gun, right there, where you can see that little glass piece, he is quite vulnerable just because the turret is such a big target. Now, granted, it is in that spaced armor zone where it's like super thick, so you probably won't kill him. But if you get shot in the side of the turret, like right towards the front of the turret, it's gonna suck. So yeah, let's go into the module analysis here. Hang on, let me look at these. Where's that model? Hang on, where is it? Where is the crew? Oh, okay. So with the ammo rack, you're looking at in the lower plate, either on the left or right side of the lower plate. This is actually, you know, like a like most of the other American tanks that have, you know, their ammo racks in the lower plate, like the T-175 and the M103 and stuff like that. It kind of sucks, but you know, this tank really isn't going to get shot in the lower plate just because there's no need to. You know, you've got the pretty thin like upper hull and turret in general. I like to equate it a lot to the Leopard, and you know, just any other like super low armor medium tank. I feel like that's pretty much the situation with this tank. You know, your ammo rack, while it will get damaged, it's not going to be as damaged, or not going to be like as big of an issue as it would be if you were using an E5 or like an M103 or something like that, just because the ammo rack is going to be in the lower plate for all of those tanks. But since the weak spots for the E5 and the M103 and E3 and stuff like that is the only weak spots, if you don't count like cupolas or anything like that, is the lower plate. So your ammo rack is probably going to get damaged a lot more than that, but the ammo rack is actually in the lower plate, unfortunately. And then your commander sits up top here where the machine gun is, pretty standard. That's pretty much with every other tank. And then your loader is going to be right next to him on the opposite side. You see his little hatch there. And then your driver is dead center in the middle. Pretty obvious. There's the hatch and the viewports and stuff. And then your gunner is going to be right behind the commander, right there where that viewport is, right, or the little view piece where it showed you earlier. And then you also do have the ammo rack in the back of the turret as well. There's not as much ammo there as there is in the lower plate, but there is actually ammo there too, as well as your radio. And then your engine and your gas tanks are in the rear of the tank, hence why I'm not using a fire extinguisher, because you don't really ever catch on fire unless you get shot in the ass, and that's the beauty of American tanks. Which reminds me, I did not talk about consumables. The M40, this tank does get a lot of ammo, so you know, ammo really isn't an issue. As you can see, I have, what is that, 57 shots. So yeah, you've got plenty of wiggle room. You can run a couple HE rounds like I do, and since the DPM isn't absolutely fucking amazing on this tank, you're not really ever going to worry about running out of ammo. So that's no issue there. And then just a pretty standard consumable setup. So that's pretty much it for the garage review of the M48 Patton, guys. Let's hop right into the replays. Alright guys, so for the first replay I have for you, this is a standard battle on Corellia, as you can see, and this gameplay is really going to showcase what the M48 does well as what it actually struggles with. There's a lot of things that I really have an issue with the M48. I feel that it's one of those tanks that's really kind of map specific, as it really does struggle to perform to its highest ability when you are on like a city map or something like that. I found that it plays a lot like the Leopard in terms of, you know, like how you should play the tank when you are playing on closer quarters maps where there's not a lot of like concaves and like just weird contours in the land where you can use your like hold down abilities, just using like ridges in general. You know, the M48 really does need you know, some sort of, you know, some hard cover to hide behind, whether it be like a building or like a hill or just some piece of landscape. I found that this tank does a lot better when it has some landscape to hide behind and where you can use your gun depression. And you know, when you're showing just the huge part of your tank, which is pretty much the entire thing, like the whole part of your tank, which is just absolutely massive. The 48 Patton is a huge target. It really is an issue when you are in like a situation like this. As you can see, I'm just kind of like out in the open. I'm an extremely easy target for anybody that's going to shoot me. But you know, when you go on a hill like this, you're really going to be able to utilize that 9 degrees of gun depression, and this is going to be one of the things that you're going to want to do when you are using the M48. As I talked about in the garage, the viewport isn't actually always a bad thing. You can use it for your baiting capabilities. You know, sometimes there's a lot of situations where the cupola is really the only, or the machine gun port, whatever you want to call it, is really the only thing that they're going to be able to see, like in this situation here. So you're going to want to just keep moving back and forth, because the guy on the receiving end is going to just keep trying to shoot your cupola or your machine gun, whatever you want to call it, and he's just going to keep trying to aim for that. You know, and it really is a hard target to hit if you just keep moving. And you saw there, that was that weird ricochet zone on the side I was talking about, when I just literally just shot him flush in the side. But you can see the M48, it really wasn't that slow off the start. I was still able to get up to the hill, even though I didn't really have much competition getting there. I wasn't like racing a Object 140 or like a Bat Chat or anything. But, you know, it really just doesn't... I don't know how to explain it. It just... Say there's 3 people capping the base and I had to get back in like 30 seconds. I wouldn't be able to make it. You know, that's just the nature of the 48 Patton. You really do kind of have to, you know, plan your moves in advance. It's kind of like a chess game. You can't really, you know, take any gambles. You know, say like if you have to go back and reset the base, and you know, you can't like stop to shoot anybody or anything like that, just because you're not fast enough. And you saw there another one of those weird bounce zones on the side of the tank again. I don't know if he actually like shot that area or if he just hit the bottom of my tracks. But, you know, it's just, the 48 Patton, it really does excel in a situation like this. I feel like this is the best possible situation to be in when you are in an M48 Patton. You know, you have some land in between you and your enemy. When you are peeking to shoot people, you're only exposing your turret. You know, it's just this is pretty much the prime situation you want to be in an M48. And you saw there, that was the downfall of the cupola. It can either be your best or worst ally, just due to the fact that, you know, you can't really hide it unless you just keep constantly moving, like I've been trying to do to get this guy to shoot. And he does actually end up shooting my cupola, or like aiming at my cupola quite a bit. He got really unlucky there, hit by the E4. I don't really know how that didn't penetrate, just some weird armor zone on that stupid machine gun. And then you're gonna see here, this is the downfall of the cupola again. You know, he probably wasn't even able to see any part of my tank, but just because that tank is so tall and the machine gun pokes up so far, it's just such an easy target to drill, especially at this range, even with the, you know, kind of meh M48 Patton accuracy. And you can see here, this is exactly what I was talking about in the garage when I was talking about the iffy accuracy. You know, you just really can't rely on it. I found that at ranges like this, at like 400 meters plus, this gun really is hit or miss, and then you just end up missing out on opportunities for free damage like that. Like, that was literally the easiest kill. Most of the tank was in the reticle, and, you know, just the gun just lets you down. And then it's not like it's the same situation with like it is with the STB though. You know, the STB has that extremely fast rate of fire. So, you know, once you pop that shot off, you're going to be waiting another like 7.1 seconds or whatever your reload is with this gun. I don't know why I said 8.1 in the garage, but it is actually like 7.1 with my crew setup. Well, it's like 6.96 in this, but that's because I'm running Cola. If you're not going to run Cola, it's probably going to be like 7.1 or something like that. But, you know, the gun, it's just not that, it's not amazing, but it's not awful. It's just meh. Like, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just, it works when it wants to, and it works when it needs to, but when you really, like, when it's crunch time and you really just gotta, you know, make those shots count, you know, you can't, this isn't, I would definitely say I'd want to be in another tank. You say like the Leopard or the E50M in a situation where I have to secure a kill at a really long distance. This is definitely not the tank I'd want to be in if I was in that kind of situation. Now you're going to see, I sit here for probably about another minute, literally just staring at this corner, waiting for this E3 to pop out. He never does, or the E4 or whatever. But, you know, the M48, it's a fun tank, I want to say, but it's not something that I really thoroughly enjoy. You know, I don't really know why you guys wanted me to do this review for so long. It's just, this tank's alright, it's alright, but it's just not, it just doesn't blow my socks off. You know, there's plenty of other, like, really, really good medium tanks in this game that completely outshine the M48 in almost every single fashion. There's really nothing that's super unique to this tank that really makes it stand out amongst its competitors. I would much sooner take like an Object 140 or like a Bad Chat or like an STB over the M48 pretty much any day, especially like an STB. I feel like that's its closest comparison just because it does have the 410 meter view range as well as really good gun depression and the pretty much kind of the same gun but just with a really a lot quicker rate of fire. But you know, the M48, it does have its own little quirks. As I mentioned before, the dispersion on the move is just absolutely fantastic. I don't know if I really hit any on the move shots in this game, but I think so in the next replay you're going to see some. But yeah, so the M48, I really just don't feel like this tank really has a niche role in this game. You know, I like to think that every tank has its purpose, and every tank, you know, does something better than every other tank. And then here again, you could just see the struggles of the accuracy, full ass on that ISU and just Russia. But yeah, like I just don't feel that the M48 has its own like special niche role. It's just kind of there. Like I don't know how to describe it. I've said that like 3 times now. But it's just kind of there, and like I honestly don't know if you should waste your time going down the line. You know, I know a lot of people's incentive when they do go. You know, when they start playing this game, they're like, oh, the M48 Patton, that's a really famous, you know, Vietnam War era tank. You know, I should probably go for it. It's pretty good. If this were PC, that would be a completely accurate statement because it is extremely good on PC now because of the rate of fire buff. I think it's like 3rd place in terms of DPM without the Russian mediums or whatever. But on console, it's a different story. Granted, I think the 48 Patton's a really cool looking tank. I just don't think that it's worth wasting all of your time. Unless there's some kind of buff in the future for the rate of fire or the dispersion or just something about this tank, you know, whether it be like turret armor or whole armor like they did on PC as well. You know, this tank just doesn't really stand out amongst its competitors like I would like it to. You know, it is unique. It does have, you know, weird quirky stuff like the really good view range and the super good track traverse and the really good dispersion while you're on the move. But other than that, it's just not spectacular, and I don't know why this tank has been like so hyped up. You know, I was kind of expecting something different. Even though I had played it in the past, I'd only played a few games in it. It wasn't really anything super special. But you know, playing it these last like 20 or 30 games, I just don't really feel like it has a very competitive aspect to the game. Like I just said before, like probably 5 minutes ago. There are much better tanks to play than the M48, especially in like the competitive environment. It just doesn't do enough better. It doesn't have anything that it does better than any other medium tank. Let's put it that way. That's pretty much what I'm going to sum the M48 up as. But you're going to see here, this is pretty much the end of the game. I don't even get to shoot at this guy because both of them end up pushing me and I just fall back down the hill. But here, this is another one of those situations where like, just being in an M48 frustrates me. You know, I really didn't want to relate this tank to like the Leopard or anything like that, but this tank really does play kind of like the Leopard. You know, you really just don't have the armor to take any hits. You don't have, I don't want to say you don't have the durability. You definitely have the hit points. I mean, the Leopard only has 50 less hit points, but I mean, the Leopard, you have to play to where you're always, like, my mentality when I'm playing a tank like that is that the next shot that I take is always going to kill me, even though I'm on full health. I feel like you really do have to play the M48 in that kind of fashion too, because trading really isn't its strong suit. It doesn't have an extremely fast rate of fire. It doesn't have anything. It's just like the view range and the dispersion. Like that's just not enough to push it over the edge to make it, you know, super fantastic in comparison to the other tier 10 medium tanks. You know, it doesn't have the armor to take hits. While it does have some armor, it's just not reliable at all, and that's the really crappy part. It's just I just don't feel like you can play this in an aggressive manner. You know, I feel like if you have a platoon with you, you can definitely do that, but it's just not attainable in this kind of tank. Like, you can't sit in a hold down position and just work enemies like if you were in like a T62A or like a 140 or something like an STB. Like, the STB's turret isn't fantastic, but since it has such good sloping on it and just amazing rate of fire and stuff like that, you know, when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression, pretty much your upper hull is an auto bounce. So it's just, you know, tanks like that, they're really geared more towards, you know, the kind of hill, ridgeline working environment, and that's what the M48 is supposed to do. Just because my experience in towns and stuff like that, it's just really awkward, because you can't really side scrape. I mean, you can, it works sometimes if the person is a complete and utter dumbass, but it's just the seasoned veteran is not gonna just take it at face value and just shoot you in the side. You know, they're gonna wait to shoot like the corner of your turret, or say like you're side scraping on the left side of a building and you're like pulling out to the right. They're gonna see your hatch before you can even like point your gun at them. You know, it's just a really awkward tank to play in city environments. So, you know, the ridgeline work, as you're going to see in this replay, this is exactly what you want to be doing when you are in the M48. Now, granted, I don't really have the most help in the beginning here, but, you know, this is really the prime environment for the M48. You know, as you can see, I'm not really going that slow, just not really going that fast. It's just, it gets there, it just doesn't get there fast enough. That's pretty much my scoop on it. But the ridgeline working with the M48, that's pretty much going to be your bread and butter, because that's really all you can do. Exposing your hull, you're pretty much guaranteed to take damage. You know, exposing too much of your tank in general, you're just going to take damage. The only thing you can really bank on them doing is, you know, either you're baiting your cupola or whatever it is, the machine gun, or you get really lucky and they shoot your super squishy, you're not your super squishy, your super absorbent, ridiculously spaced armor gun mantlet. You know, it's so ridiculous sometimes. Like, I've bounced like Jaeger shots off the fucking gun mantlet. Like, it's just so annoying sometimes. Like, and it's so random too. Like, you'll get the most ridiculous mercy bounces, even though that's not a thing. I just joke about it and say it is. And you know, this you're gonna see right here, this initial like duel with the Centurion. This is really the struggles of the M48. You know, I did get the bounce there off of the gun mantlet, and then I can't really, like, you just can't do much. Despite that being a tier 8 tank, you know, he's still able to just, you know, give it to me good. That sounded really terrible, but yeah, he can just keep pounding me because, you know, this tank's armor is just not that good. Despite him bouncing 3 out of the 4 shots that he shot at me so far, you know, this tank just doesn't have the durability. Like, head on head, if you're not in a hold down position, you're just gonna get slaughtered. As you can see, like, the armor just doesn't hold up. You know, since the Centurion 1 has such a good rate of fire, he is able to just, you know, just keep peppering me. And, you know, you saw those like weird armor bounce zones, like when I was angled super far and he shot my front hull for some reason. You know, that does happen, but like I said earlier, it's just not reliable, and that's just not something that I like about this tank. It's just really annoying. And then here's another thing that just really pisses me off when I'm playing this tank. This tank just really just give me deja vu back to the STB when I played that thing. The gun accuracy, I can understand with the STB, just because, the aim time is really long, and, sometimes you just gotta pop the shot off quick. But with the M48, you can see this dispersion is really, really good. But I've shot this guy 4 times now, and probably I think only 2 of 4 hit him. I can't really see exactly. Actually, let me see here. Oh, never mind. Here we go. But yeah, so it's just stuff like that is just really, really annoying. And you're going to be in those types of situations where you just get so frustrated with the RNG of this gun, despite having a really good crew and, Cola, Brothers in Arms, Vents, and all that. Getting your gun accuracy down to like 0.32, and then it just doesn't work. Like, I don't know. It's just something about this tank, man. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know if I just haven't played it enough, or that I just am completely playing it wrong, and I should just play it like a leopard, like I should, and just go to the aggressive positions with your team. But if you're the only person there, fall back. Stay with your team. Stay alive, because you staying alive is really important in the late game. But I just don't get that vibe with the M48. I feel like this should be like I shouldn't say like a support tank, but I want to say like a frontline support tank. Like, you want to be that guy that's backing up your Object 140s and T62As, and the tanks that can actually take a beating when they are in a hold down position. The M48, it really just can't take that punishment, despite having that super troll gun arm or gun mantlet, and the really nice generous health pool that it has. It's just, I don't know, man. I just don't get the 48 Patton's vibe. I don't know how to. I really just don't know how else to say it. It's just not something that I've really, I feel like this is probably one of the biggest disappointments. I'm not gonna lie. This is probably one of the biggest disappointments in any tank line that I've played. Almost as bad as like the what do you call it, the fucking AMX 30B. Like, that tank, I was so hyped to get that tank when I first got it on PC, and then like the AMX 30 was so good, and then I get the AMX 30B and it's just so underwhelming. Like, I mean, granted, it still has the same gun and accuracy and all that stuff, but it's just, I don't know, man. This is probably one of the most underwhelming tier 10s, and that's the consensus that I've gotten from a lot of my friends that actually do have this. One of my friends that I've actually been playing with a lot recently, he told me, like, yeah, the M48 was my first tier 10, and I was just, I don't know, I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. After I got my second tier 10, I definitely was enjoying that a lot more than this. Well, I mean, like, while the 48 Patton is still a really good tank, it's just not as good as you would like it to be. You feel that a tank like this would have so much more potential. I would just figure that Wargaming would give this tank some sort of niche role. I feel like the buffs that they just gave to it on PC would be absolutely amazing for console. For those of you who don't know what the buffs were, they gave the when they made it an HD model, they made the upper hull 150 millimeters, and then they changed around the rate of fire and the dispersion on the gun, making it pretty damn close to the STB. I think the reload's at like 6.6 or 6.7 or something like that now. I don't know. I haven't played the M48 on PC. But I've seen gameplay of it, and I've seen like some of my favorite streamers on PC play it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that if they did that to the M48 on this console, on the console version of World Tanks, it would be a really, really nice change, and I really don't think it would upset the balance of Tier 10 in any way in terms of medium tanks. The M48, it's still pretty sluggish, it's still pretty slow, it's huge, has a really awful camera rating, and it's just doesn't have a ton of armor, so I don't really understand why, or I don't really see why giving it like a rate of fire buff or a dispersion buff or anything like that, I don't see why that would be a problem. So, it'd be really nice to see Wargaming, give this tank some love. And, tanks like the 113 and just tanks like that you just don't ever see getting played. Just give them some love. Now, granted, I'm sure the M48's played a lot more than the 113 just because it's a tank that some people will recognize and be like, oh, yeah, man. Like, when they first start playing the game, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to go get the M48. But, yeah. So, another thing I wanted to talk about, I completely forgot to talk about this earlier when I was talking about, moving the machine gun and stuff. As you can see, since the machine gun is actually taller than the tank itself, this is really good for you in terms of spotting mechanics. If you really want to, peek a ridge, all you have to do is peek up the machine gun. Now, it's really hard to gauge what you're actually exposing since you are in this like backwards looking forward view here. But since the M48 machine gun is so tall, you really do only have to expose an extremely small amount of your vehicle to actually spot the enemy. So that's another thing that you can use the machine gun to your advantage with. As I still feel that the cons of the machine gun, its large size and no armor, kind of do outweigh the pros. It's still something that you can just kind of use in your advantage. Try to put the ball in your court, and just make the situation the best that it can be with what you have. So yeah, so the M48 Patton, in conclusion, I want to say that this is probably one of the most underwhelming tier 10s that I've ever played. It's definitely not bad, but it just doesn't stand out. I've said this like 3 times now, and I feel like I'm just talking in circles. But it just really isn't. I mean, it's fun, but I just feel like I could do so much more in a different tank, even if I was on the same map. It doesn't matter. Like, I just feel like I could do so much more in like a 121 or like a STB or an Object 140. I just feel like I could contribute so much more if I was using something like that. Something where it has that, that specialty, that armor, that view range, that camera rating, that auto loading. Like, the M48 just doesn't really have that, that specialty. I get lucky here, he bounces off my tracks, but the M48, while I will say that it's a fun tank to play, like I literally just said, it's just, I don't feel like you should waste your time grinding it. It's definitely not Clan Wars viable in its current state, as it really just doesn't do anything super well. It's just kind of there, and I feel that that's the case with pretty much just the M48 in general. It's just kind of there, and it's not going anywhere. It's one of the original tier 10 mediums or whatever, so it's not going anywhere. But yeah, so that's pretty much my spiel on the M48, guys. I know this was long anticipated and long awaited, so I hope it did clear up any confusions. I know pretty much half the video was me explaining why I think this tank's really underwhelming, but that's just my honest opinion, and I know some of you guys, just want my honest opinion and, the facts about the tank and stuff like that, despite my grievances about it. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this tank review, guys. I really hoped you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and maybe steered you away or towards the M48 Patton. It is a really fun tank to play, but I just feel like it's just kind of there, and it just doesn't do anything super special, and I feel like you could do much more in a different medium tank. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for the constant support. I fucking love you guys. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Achilles. Have a wonderful day, and I'll